Good morning, friends. I again welcome you for our next lecture on chapter number 3 of W.H. Hudson's book, An Introduction to the Study of Literature. Hudson has discussed poetry and its elements in chapter number 3, and here in this lecture we want to discuss versification in English poetry. In our previous lectures we discussed what poetry is. We discussed different definitions of poetry, and we also discussed some of the important elements of poetry and types of poetry. As the students of literature, it is very much important for us to understand poetry from the technical point of view, because we discussed that if you want to understand poetry, you need to understand the author, the race, the milieu, the moment, the author's personality, the time in which the author was living, and so many other things which have influenced the work of art. But there is one technical part which is yet to be discussed, and that technical part is what makes poetry a poetry is what? It is some poetic devices. Poetry, we call poetry because it has a proper structure, poetic structure. Poetry is different from prose because poetry is written in lines, poetry is written in stanzas, and every line has some rhythmic words. Rhythm comes out from the words. So the question is, from where does this rhythm come in poetry? Use of meter also adds the quality of music to the poetry. So this is what is known as versification. Versification includes the scansion of poetry. It includes the understanding of syllables, of words, of lines, of stanzas, of meter, of rhyme, of rhythm, of melody. I repeat them again. Versification means a scientific study of the structure of the poem. It includes so many things. It includes the scansion of poetry, and that includes the study of the syllables, the study of the words, the study of the lines, the study of the stanza, the study of some meters used by the poets. And this is how you come to a conclusion where you get an idea that this particular poet has used this meter in this poetry, and that's why this poetry looks so rhythmic, looks so melodious. So our job as the students of literature is to find out this rhythm, this melody in the poem. Now the question is how to find out this rhythm. So we begin with the term called scansion. SCANSION. You can see on the screen. Scansion. Scansion is also known as scanning. You have to scan the poem. Now, what is this scansion in poetry? You can see the definition given on the screen. The definition of scansion. Scansion in literature means to divide the poetry or some poetic form into different feet by pointing out different syllables based on their lengths. This is the common definition to understand the term called scansion. Scansion means to divide the poetry in poetic form or to divide the poetry or poetic form into different feet. Okay. Now, what is feet and all that we'll discuss later, but you just imagine that there is a line. Okay. In prose, what happens? The prose is written in paragraphs. So, at the most, you can divide the paragraphs into sentences, and the sentences can further be divided into words. Okay. In the same manner, in poetry, the poet uses lines, stanzas, and stanzas are further divided into lines, and these lines are further divided into words, but words are divided into syllables. So, you can say that the syllable is the division of the words. Say, for example, there is a word called before, B-E-F-O-R-E, before. Before is a word which can further be divided into two divisions. Before can be divided into two syllables. What are these two syllables? They are B-E, B and for, F-O-R-E, before. So, when you speak this word before, you are actually unknowingly speaking the word with that proper division. We say before. In the same manner, take the example of another word called wonderful. W-O-N-D-E-R-F-U-L, wonderful. Now, this word also can be divided into three syllables. Three syllables. Okay? Like you can say wonderful. So, when you are speaking this word wonderful, you are actually unknowingly speaking it with proper division of syllables. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So, it has, you can say, three syllables. So, scansion is what? Scansion in poetry it means to divide the lines into different feet. What is feet? That I will tell you later. Feet is a measurement of a line, right? You can divide the line into different feet by pointing out different syllables based on their lengths. Scansion is also known as scanning, which in fact is a description of rhythms of poetry. Okay? In the line, you can divide the line into different feet, and every feet has its own rhythm. Okay? Let's take the example from literature. This poem, which you can see on the screen, is written by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson has written this poem, "Hope is the thing with feathers, hope is the thing with feathers." that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Now, in this example, you can say strong or stressed syllables are underlined, right? You see the syllables. What are the syllables? Division of words. And these syllables are sometimes stressed and sometimes not stressed. Stressed syllables are also known as strong syllables. Stressed syllables are also known as strong syllables. Say, for example, I gave you the example of the word before. Before, the word before has two syllables. Okay, and these two syllables, in which the first one is not stressed, it is a weak syllable, unstressed syllable, but the second one is the strong syllable and it is a stressed syllable. So, unstressed, stress. This is the rhythm of the word before. So, the first syllable, when you are speaking this word, it is not stressed while speaking, but the second one is stressed while speaking. So, when you say before is correct, but when you say before, when you stress the first syllable and unstress the second syllable, it is a wrong pronunciation. So, the correct pronunciation is before. For is stress. So, here you can see that hope is the thing with feathers. In this line, hope, the word hope has one syllable. It is a monosyllabic word. Let me tell you that the word which has one syllable is called a monosyllabic word, like the words hope, like the words go. Go is a one monosyllabic word. Do, D-O. Do is a monosyllabic word. Okay, so there is a monosyllabic word, there is a disyllabic word. There are some disyllabic words in English language in which there are two syllables. Okay, disyllabic, say for example, before, above, desire. Okay, they are disyllabic. Di means two. Some words are trisyllabic words. Okay, like wonderful, wonderful. Some are tetrasyllabic word, means four syllables are there in the word. Some are pentasyllabic word, that means there are five syllables in the word. Some are hexasyllabic words, that means there are six syllables in the word. It's a long word. So, your first job in Scanson is to find out how many syllables are there in a particular line. Line by line you have to count the syllables which are there, the number of syllables which are used by the poet. Now, if you see the example on the screen, the example from a poem written by Emily Dickinson, here we have taken 4 lines from Emily's poem. The first line is hope is the thing with feathers. Can you count the syllables in this first line? Number 1, hope is syllable number 1, is, to, the, 3, thing, for, with, 5, feathers. Feathers, there are 2, okay. So, hope is 1, is second, the, 3, thing, for, with, 5, 6, thus, 7. You can say that there are 7 syllables in this line. Go to the next line, that perches in the soul. Now that is a monosyllabic word, so 1, perches, it is a disyllabic word, so 1 plus 2, 3, in, for, the, 5, soul, 6. So we can say that there are 6 syllables in the second line. Go to the third line and sings the tune without the words. And 1 sings 2, the 3 tune 4 with 5 doubt 6 the 7 words 8. So you can say there are 8 syllables in this line. I repeat them again. And 1 sings 2, the 3 tune 4 we 5 doubt 6 the 7 words 8. So there are 8 syllables in that third line. And go to the fourth line, and never stops at all. So and is 1, ne 2, wa 3, stops 4, at 5, all 6. Okay, so 6 syllables. So when you want to do some scansion of any poem, then first job is to find out how many syllables are there in each line. Number 1. Number 2, which syllables are stressed and which syllables are unstressed. Which syllables, in other words, you can say which syllables are strong syllables and which ones are weak syllables. So considering this, you get a proper rhythm, whether it is a rising rhythm or it is a falling rhythm. When you say above, so the first one is weak and the second one is strong, so you can say it is a rising rhythm. But when the first one is strong and the second one is weak, you can say it is a falling rhythm. Say for example, desire is a rising rhythm again. Okay. Beautiful, 3 syllables. Okay, so it's a falling rhythm. Beau, the first syllable is stressed, it is a strong syllable. T and full are weak syllables, so you go down from upside. So when you are speaking this word beautiful, you go like this when you are uttering this word beautiful. Okay, beautiful. So this is how every word has its own rhythm, and as per the rhythm you can mark the words properly. Those syllables which are stressed syllable, for that you can mark 1 dash on the word. Those which are the strong syllables, stressed syllables, you can mark a small dash on the word, on that syllable. And the syllable which is not stressed, which is unstressed, or which is a weak syllable, you can mark a half circle on that particular syllable. Okay. In this example, you can say strong or stressed syllables are underlined, and unfortunately I forgot to underline this strong syllables, but let me tell you, hope, the syllable hope is stressed here. Hope is the thing. Now thing is again stressed, so hope is stressed, is unstressed, the unstressed, thing again stressed. Hope is the thing with feathers, so with is unstressed, again with is unstressed. Fair, because feathers, there are 2 syllables in this word, so the first syllable of this word fair is stressed. Okay, it is stressed, and thus it is unstressed. So you can say in this line there is a rhythm like stressed, hope, unstressed is the thing again stressed, with unstressed, stressed, thus unstressed. So you can say the rhyming, the rhythm of this poem is down and up, again down and up, and last it is down. So, the point is, this is how we as the students of literature must find out some rhythm. Not only this, when we are doing scansion, we also need to find out which meter is used by the poet. What is meter and what are the types of meter, that we will discuss later. But number one, you have to divide the lines into proper number of syllables, number one. Number two, find out the proper rhythm of each syllable used in all the lines. Okay, number two. Number three, you find out which meter is used in this particular poem. What is meter, types of meter, we will discuss later. So, number three is to find out the meter. Number four is to find out what kind of stanza is used by the poet. There are different kinds of stanzas like couplets, tercets, quatrains, etc. That we will discuss later. But fourth thing, when you are doing scansion, is to find out different types of stanza, which type of stanza is used by the poet. Okay, and number five, what is the rhyming scheme of the poem, like A B A B A, or sometimes it is A B B A B B, or sometimes it is A B B B C C C. What is the rhyming scheme of the poem? So, these five things you need to find out when you are doing scansion, and this all practice is known as versification. I repeat them again. Scansion means kind of scanning of the poem, and this scanning is done on the basis of five criteria. Number one, to count the number of lines and to divide each line into syllables. Okay, this is number one. Number two, to find out the rhythm of each syllable, whether it is a stressed syllable or an unstressed syllable, strong one or a weaker one. This is number two. Number three, you need to find out which meter is used by the poet. Number four, which kind of stanza is used by the poet. And number five, you need to see what is the rhyming scheme of the poem. Okay, so these five things are important for you to understand. So, first we begin with the stanzas. First we begin with the stanzas. There are different types of stanzas available in English literature, in English poetry. Okay, what is a stanza? Stanza is a group of lines used in poetry. Now, this group can be a small group, it can be a bigger group also. Okay, like the terms that describe the number of lines in a stanza is called what we know it as a stanza. Like if there are two lines in a stanza, it is called a couplet. You can see on the screen when the poet is writing the poetry in the stanzas of two lines each. This one particular group of two lines is known as a couplet. Okay, you can see this example on the screen. I saw a little hermit crab. His cooking was so drab. So, the couplet means a group of two lines. The example you can see on the screen, it is rhyming because crab and drab both are the rhyming words. when there is an example, say for example, sometimes the poet uses a group of 3 lines. Okay, so this group of 3 lines is known as a tercet. It is a stanza called tercet. Here we have taken one example by P.B. Shelley, a romantic poet. P.B. Shelley has written this poem, Ode to the West Wind. You can see this example, O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing. So here the poet has expressed his ideas in a group of 3 lines called tercets. Okay, the rhyming scheme of this stanza you can see being, dead and fleeing. So the rhyming is A, B, A. In the same manner, if there is a group of 4 lines, it is known as a quatrain. The group of 4 lines, that stanza, is known as a quatrain. We have taken one example from a very famous poet, Robert Burns. Robert Burns has written a poem entitled A Red, Red Rose. Let's see this example. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's sweetly played in tune. Okay, so the group of 4 lines, this is called a quatrain. The rhyming scheme of this quatrain you can see is, rose, June, melody and tune. So the rhyming is A, B, C, D, because June and tune both are rhyming. In the same manner, there can be a stanza of 5 lines. Okay, and the stanza of 5 lines is very rarely used by the poets. It is not a popular method of writing poetry, but some of the poets have tried using this stanza of 5 lines, and it is known as cinquain. Donne's poem, John Donne, a 17th century English poet, he has written a poem, Hymn to God, my God, in my sickness. Here we find the 5 lines. The poem is very long, so I have not taken this example here, but you can get this example from Google. In the same manner, when there is a stanza of 6 lines, it is known as sestet. When there is a stanza of 7 lines, it is known as a heptameter. When there is a stanza of 8 lines, it is called an octave. Okay, so try to remember this. The stanza of 2 lines is called a couplet. Stanza of 3 lines called a tercet. Stanza of 4 lines called a quatrain. 5 lines cinquain, 5 lines cinquain, 6 line a sestet, 7 line a heptameter and 8 lines an octave. So these are the different types of stanzas in English prosody, in English poetry. How do we divide the lines, or what do we call the lines in our terminology of Skansen? That we will discuss in the next lecture. I hope the ideas which I just now expressed are clear to you. Rest of the things we will discuss in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.